In today's video on the Grand Classic, I'm going to talk about the switching choices, the soft switch, and I'm going to talk about the expression jack. These are really cool features, but really complicated. So traditional pedals, which I've said before, you tend to use this sort of thing. Very noisy, requires trailing wires that pick up noise, and you're paying money for us to cut tiny wires that add noise and take longer to fit. I'm not a big fan of this, but cheap, tried, tested, and some people like the clunky sound. Okay, but I don't. I wanted the soft switch. Now, the reason we don't tend to use soft switches is because they don't latch on and off. They don't have all these wonderful pins on the back that let us just send the signal through. They tend to be more like this. They're just two little pins. And so we have to have all this circuitry. So the thing at the top is what we call a flip-flop. And this toggles. So you send a signal, it comes on, you send the same signal, it goes off. But it's fraught with problems and complexity, which is why there's so much circuitry here. There's two chips and a bunch of resistors and capacitors. So the first thing is bounce. When you hit this switch, it actually goes slightly at a really, really high speed. You can't hear it, but the flip-flop's sensitive to that. It goes on, off, on, off, on, off, and ends in a random state. So you need a Schmitt trigger, which is basically a type of chip that smooths that signal out and fixes it out. And you also need some filtering. So some filtering on this, and then you have a Schmitt trigger that sorts the transients out, and then you can have this lovely toggle on off thing. And you use any touch switch after that. Foot switches, touch switches, doesn't matter. So this is really quite cool, even though it takes up technology. But at this point, you're probably thinking, well, that's a lot more complexity for not a lot of benefit. Well, the next benefit that comes off this is that a flip-flop system can have set and reset triggers as well. So where this is on, off, on, off, on, off, you can also send it a signal to say on or off. And no matter how many times you send that signal, it's just on and off. It's like two wires. This is really useful for remote control. I said I'll come back to the expression jack. Now you can see what I'm thinking. If you could bring that out to expression jack as an option, you could remote control your pedals in a big array, sending them all just a little pulse on signal. No need for switches, no need for noisy external cables, no need for complexity. You just send a pulse to each of your different pedals saying you're on, you're off, you're on, you're on, and you're off, and it's done. No audio, just control. So how cool's that? But it also introduces another problem, which is when you turn the pedal on, the flip-flop doesn't know which state it's supposed to be in, on or off, so we have to have circuitry to tell it, right, you're going to be off when you turn on. And then some people aren't going to want to use this. They just want their pedals to always be on or always be off when they power them up. Because if you use an external switcher, you want them to be on, because they're all might be in a rack or remotely. You want them all to be, every pedal to be on, because your switch is going to switch them in and out the chain. And if you don't, you probably want to be off. So we add an additional bit of circuitry here, which basically, it's going to be a little more tricky. I'm going to use the power cable here. So whenever I connect the power, clink, 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 it's off. And internally on the Grand Classic, you can set the mode to say, whenever I attach the power, hopefully this works, clink, 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 every time I tap the power on, it's on. Power, power, power. So this will set your initial startup state. So there's so much more complexity. But it's very, very cool. It lets you use really ultra reliable, super sensitive switches. It lets you have remote switching, and you can still choose whether it's going to be on or off as its default power up state. All that technology is transparent. You don't need to know it. The next cool thing, of course, like I say, is because I'm using a Daughterboard system in the pedal, which I can't show you because I haven't got one. But basically, you've got the main circuit board, and if you take the back off the pedal, there'll be a little second circuit board plugged in. Now you can swap those circuit boards out, and I'm going to make them available. Different ones are going to be available cheaply for simple connect things and a little more expensive for full-on effects units. I'm also going to be open sourcing that. So you will be able to download, yes, the circuits and print your own. And my plan is to even create a prototyping board, which will have all the connectors and everything on in a nice space in the middle where you could solder your own transistors and chips. So if you're a real developer creator and you want to get into this, you've got all the buffers, all the switching, everything done for you. All you have to do is put the tone circuit in the middle. So drop in a fuzz pedal as an extra effect, and you want it pre or post effects, that's doable too, because the Daughterboard brings out a pre-circuit and a post-circuit. So whatever pedal you plug this Daughterboard into, not just the Grand Classic, anything I do forward, that Daughterboard, if it's one I've made, it'll go where it's supposed to. But if it's one you're custom making, you can choose if it goes before or after that effect, if it synchronizes with the pedal on off, if it has its own on off, and how you use the expression jack. So with the Grand Classic, you'll have a choice the expression jack on the side of doing nothing. That's choice 1. Choice 2, you'll be able to get a Daughterboard that lets you, if you short out these signals momentarily, it'll be off and on. So you can remote control that pedal by anything, just by sending it an on or off pulse. It doesn't need anything fancy other than just connect them together, like any momentary foot switch ever. And as I go forward, you're going to be able to remote control it in even cooler ways. I haven't sorted the circuitry out, but there is no reason why this also can't be brought out on a different Daughterboard as an effects loop. Because as I said, internally, that Daughterboard can access the pre-effect and post-effect regions. So we can have send and return, and then you could run that to anything you want to have an insert. So if you want to put a compressor before your Grand Classic in an effects loop effectively, you could do that in the effects loop. And when you turn the Grand Classic on and off, of course, because it's inside the circuit, it'll come on and off with the pedal. So you get one stomp for your 2 effects, or equally same in the post-circuit section. You could have something in the post-circuit section that's built in. So one stomp, your Grand Classic would come on with the post effect through the effects loop, which could be anything. So we've got an effects loop, we've got remote switching, and of course, we have the expression. So the Grand Classic is shipping with oh, my brain's gone dead. I know what I mean. I'm going to say it's not a low frequency oscillator at all. It's a low pass filter sweep effect, a bit like a synthy kind of crazy wah sound. And it's going to use the standard TRS expression for that. So this is where this is like an earth pin, and it's just a pot. You have the 3 pins of a pot. Any standard expression pedal anywhere with TRS, tip, ring, sleeve, where the sleeve is effectively earth, the ring is effectively 5 volts. It comes out of the Grand Classic, and the tip is the return. And as you move the swell up and down, that changes the effect. What's also cool is I've done something new. What a surprise. If you short the 5 volt to earth, it turns off the effect. So I can have an extra foot switch without any extra pins to toggle the effect on and off, as well as providing this. And there's some very clever circuitry I've done to do this. I'm still finalizing it. That's why the Daughterboard isn't quite ready for real time yet, but I'm 99% sure this will work. It's pretty good so far. I just need to make sure it's stable. And so yeah, you'll be able to plug in like a wah pedal into the side of your Grand Classic, but unlike a traditional expression that's just there all the time, it'll have a switch like a wah, so you can click it off and the effect will go out of the chain and it'll switch off completely. So how cool is that? Very, very cool, I think. And finally, of course, I've mentioned CV voltage. For those of you who are synth users or know what that is, yeah, it's 5 volts, simple. You put CV to the tip, no other adaptations needed. The ring itself, again, will be outputting 5 volts, so you can ignore that, or you can just put a toggle switch in and also have control of the switching. Very, very simple. So you can switch the Daughterboard on and off. So how cool is that? Yeah, a lot going in, as you can see, to the Daughterboard and switching system. I'm very pleased to say this is rock solid now. It wasn't at first. I had to do some tweaks, some timings. I was looking up other people's schematics. How does everyone do this? Mine's not quite right, and I've nailed it. So switching's down, and I'm going to do the main board on the Grand Classic, design it now. It's ready. I'm laying out the circuit, fitting everything in, and once I've done that, I'm just going to get that running into production immediately. And I'm going to pick up the pieces with the Daughterboard next. So the idea is that while I'm waiting for these to be produced, I can be finishing up the Daughterboard design and finalizing all this stuff and make sure it all works. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool, isn't it? I think we've got something really cool there. And of course, I'm going to keep expanding all the things I can do with this and provide you with pedals and ways to interface that as time goes on, and continue support of this format. This is my format. This is the Audiostorm format now. This is how it will be, and you can be confident that you're investing in something that will continue and have cool designs. Yeah. Awesome. See you guys soon.